The man looked up, startled. His brown eyes were soft but tired, the kind of tired that didn't come from a long day, more like from a long life. For a second, he didn't say anything. Water dripped from the edge of his hood, and his lips trembled slightly as if he couldn't believe she was talking to him. I can't take that, he finally murmured. His voice was deep but gentle. You'll get soaked. Emily smiled faintly, shrugging off his concern. I'm already soaked, she said, tilting her umbrella toward him. Besides, I'm just going a few blocks. You needed more. He hesitated again, then slowly reached out, his rough fingers brushing against hers as he accepted the handle. Thank you, he said quietly, almost like he wasn't used to saying those words. You're very kind. Just pass it on someday, Emily replied before stepping back into the rain. She turned, half jogging now, her coat clinging to her shoulders. The rain felt colder without the umbrella, but something about that small exchange warmed her more than she expected. It wasn't much, just a simple act of kindness, but in a city like New York, small kindnesses were rare currency. Behind her, the man watched her disappear into the sea of umbrellas and wet faces. He gripped the yellow umbrella tightly, staring at it like it was a treasure. Then, almost as if remembering something, he folded it halfway and started walking in the same direction she'd gone, staying to the other side of the street. Emily didn't notice him following, her thoughts were elsewhere. She thought about her mother, who'd always said, kindness has a way of circling back, Sometimes, it just takes the long way around. She missed her mother terribly. It had been a year since the car accident that took her away, and every rainy day reminded Emily of that night. The same kind of rain, the same kind of cold. But her mother had always believed that helping strangers was a way of keeping love alive, and that's exactly what Emily was trying to do. By the time she reached the subway entrance, her hair was dripping, and her phone buzzed with a text from her boss. She sighed, another urgent report. She tucked the phone away and hurried down the steps. The crowd was thicker than usual, and the slippery floor made everyone impatient. As she reached the platform, a loud announcement echoed overhead, "Attention, passengers, delays on the downtown line due to a stalled train. Please stand behind the yellow line." Emily rolled her eyes and checked her watch. She had 15 minutes to get to her next meeting. Great. She adjusted her purse and stood close to the platform edge, distracted by her thoughts. The hum of the crowd, the buzz of cell phones, and the faint rumble of a train somewhere in the tunnel blurred together in her ears. Across the platform, the same man, the one she had given her umbrella to, stood silently. He recognized her instantly. She was tapping her phone, oblivious to how dangerously close she was standing to the edge. He frowned, his gut tightening with a strange sense of alertness. A young man nearby bumped into her shoulder as he passed, muttering an apology. Emily took a small step forward to regain her balance, her heel landing right on the slick yellow line. The train lights appeared in the tunnel, a beam of silver and white rushing closer. That's when it happened. Someone behind her stumbled, maybe pushed by the crowd. A chain reaction rippled through the commuters, and Emily felt a sudden shove against her back. Her phone slipped from her hand, clattering toward the tracks. She gasped, her balance tipping forward, her foot sliding. The roaring sound of the train filled her ears, blinding lights rushing closer. And then, strong hands grabbed her shoulders. She was yanked backward with a force that made her fall hard onto the platform. The world spun for a second as the train thundered past, the wind of it whipping her hair wildly. People screamed, a few shouted, others gasped in horror. Emily blinked, her breath ragged. A man knelt beside her, panting, his clothes still damp, the yellow umbrella leaning against the wall behind him. It was him, the same stranger. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice trembling slightly. He couldn't finish the sentence. Emily's heart pounded so hard she could barely speak. You saved me," she whispered. He helped her sit up, his hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. "I saw you from across the platform. I don't even know why I followed you," he said, half smiling in disbelief. "Guess I just felt like I should." The crowd slowly returned to motion, whispers and murmurs spreading around them. A station guard rushed over, asking if she was hurt. Emily nodded that she was fine, though her knees were trembling so badly she could hardly stand. When she looked back at him, the stranger was standing now, holding the umbrella again, eyes downcast as if unsure what to do next. "Wait," she said, grabbing his sleeve. "You can't just walk away after that. But he shook his head. You already gave me something today, he said softly. I just gave it back. Before she could respond, he smiled faintly, turned, and disappeared into the crowd. Emily sat there for a long moment, heart still racing, trying to make sense of what just happened. The same umbrella she'd given away minutes ago stood beside her, leaning against the bench as if waiting to go home with her again. When she finally picked it up, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. On the handle, scratched faintly into the plastic, were the letters, MT. She didn't know who he was or what those initials meant. But she knew this. Her mother had been right. Kindness really does circle back. Sometimes, it saves your life. As she walked back up into the rain, the yellow umbrella opened above her once more, glowing like a piece of sunshine in a storm. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thanks, Mom." What she didn't know, at least not yet, was that their paths weren't done crossing. Because the man with the umbrella had a story of his own, one that was about to collide with hers again in the most unexpected way. The following morning, Emily couldn't shake the memory of what had happened. Every time she closed her eyes, she could feel the stranger's hands pulling her back from the edge, hear the deafening roar of the train, smell the sharp tang of metal and rain. She'd barely slept, her mind looping through those seconds between life and death. The yellow umbrella now stood by her door, dry and clean, its sunflowers bright against the gray morning light streaming through her apartment window. She kept glancing at it as if it might somehow give her answers. Who was he? Why did he follow her? And how had fate arranged for her tiny act of kindness to circle back so suddenly and so powerfully? She replayed his words, "You already gave me something today. I just gave it back." The simplicity of it haunted her. At work, she couldn't focus. Her colleagues noticed her silence, her faraway look. Her boss, Mr. Dalton, even asked if she was okay, and for once, she didn't know how to answer. She wasn't hurt. Physically, she was fine. But something deep in her had shifted, a realization that life wasn't as random as she once thought. At lunch, she decided to take a walk. She found herself heading toward the same area where she'd first met him. Maybe he was there again. Maybe she could thank him properly, or at least learn his name. The rain had stopped, but puddles still glistened on the sidewalks. She scanned every corner, every awning, every coffee shop entrance. Nothing. The man with the brown eyes and quiet voice was gone. Feeling foolish, she turned to leave, when a voice called out from behind. "Miss." She spun around. A street vendor waved at her, holding up a folded note. "You're the lady with the yellow umbrella, right? A guy dropped this off for you this morning." Her pulse quickened. What did he look like? Tall, dark hair, kinda quiet. Said you'd come looking for him. With trembling fingers, Emily took the note. It was written on a small napkin from a cafe, the ink slightly smudged. "Greater than you don't owe me anything. But if you ever want to know why I was really there that night, come to Riverside Park. Bench 14. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. MT. Her breath caught. MT, the initials scratched on the umbrella handle. For the next 24 hours, her thoughts raced. Should she go? It could be dangerous, but something inside her, something stronger than fear, pushed her to find out the truth. The next evening, she arrived at Riverside Park just before sunset. The air was cool, the river reflecting the city lights in soft ripples. As she walked along the path lined with golden leaves, she spotted bench 14. He was already there. Same dark hoodie, but this time his face was clearer in the fading light, sharp features, tired eyes, but a calm expression. He stood when he saw her, almost as if surprised she'd actually come. "You came," he said simply. "Of course I did," she replied. "You saved my life. The least I could do was say thank you properly." He smiled faintly, gesturing for her to sit. "I'm glad you did. I owe you an explanation." Emily sat beside him, the sound of the river whispering behind them. "You said you had a reason for being there that night," she said quietly. "What did you mean?" He exhaled slowly, looking out at the water. "My name's Michael Turner. I used to be a paramedic, until a year ago." "A paramedic," she repeated. He nodded. "Yeah, I loved my job, saving people. It made me feel like I mattered. But one night, there was a car accident on the highway. A mother and her daughter. The crash was bad. I couldn't save the mother." His voice faltered, barely above a whisper. "I still see her face sometimes. The daughter survived. I stayed with her in the ambulance. She was crying, asking about her mom the whole time. I promised I'd take care of her, but after that night, I couldn't bring myself to go back to work. I blamed myself. Emily's heart stopped. A chill ran through her spine. What was the mother's name? She asked, voice trembling. He looked at her, and his eyes softened. Linda Carter. Emily froze. Her breath hitched. That was my mom. Michael's face went pale. You're, Emily. Tears welled up in her eyes before she could stop them. I was that little girl, she whispered. I don't remember much, just the flashing lights, and a man holding my hand, telling me it would be okay. He blinked, as if the air had been knocked out of him. That was me. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the river and the distant hum of the city filled the silence between them. Emily's chest ached with a strange mix of grief and gratitude. All this time, she murmured, I wondered what happened to the man who stayed with me that night. I never knew your name. Michael ran a hand through his hair, his eyes glistening. I didn't know yours either, not until I saw your ID badge at the cafe yesterday. I froze. I couldn't believe it. After all these years, I had to make sure you were okay. I didn't plan for the umbrella or the subway or any of it. I was just there, watching, making sure life had treated you better than that night did. Emily wiped at her tears. You blamed yourself for what happened, didn't you? He nodded slowly. Every day, I quit my job, lost my place, started drifting. Saving you on that platform, it felt like a second chance. Like your mom finally forgave me through you. She looked at him then, not as a stranger, not even as the man who had saved her life, but as someone who had carried her pain along with his own. You didn't fail her, Emily said softly. You saved me. She would have been grateful for that. He looked away, his jaw tight, as if holding back years of guilt. Maybe, but that umbrella, it wasn't just luck. When you handed it to me, I felt like life was giving me a reason to stand in the rain again. That simple act brought me back to who I was. Emily smiled through her tears. Maybe we both needed saving. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun dip below the skyline. The air grew cooler, but neither moved to leave. Finally, Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver pin shaped like angel wings. Your mom had this on her jacket that night, he said softly. I kept it. I didn't know why, until now. He handed it to her. Emily took it with trembling fingers, clutching it tightly to her chest. Thank you, she whispered. He smiled. No, thank you. As they rose from the bench, rain began to fall again, soft, steady, like a quiet blessing. Without a word, Emily opened the yellow umbrella. Together, they walked beneath it, side by side, two souls bound by tragedy, kindness, and fate. And for the first time in a long time, Emily didn't feel alone. The rain no longer reminded her of loss, it reminded her of connection, of second chances, of her mother's voice saying, kindness always finds its way back. She glanced at Michael, his face peaceful beneath the glow of the city lights. She smiled. You know, my mom used to say that when you help someone, you're really helping yourself too. He chuckled softly. She was right. The umbrella tilted slightly between them, the sunflower edges catching drops of rain like tiny bursts of sunlight. And as they walked into the night, Emily knew, this was no coincidence. It was life, circling back in the most beautiful way possible.